Hi there everyone, your Pyral here with some more of Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess HD. Last episode, we completed the toughest challenge in the game in my opinion, the Cave of Shadows, and that's pretty much it. I can't stress enough how difficult I thought that place was, because you don't have access to your items, and combat with Wolf Link is more limited than combat as regular Link. But anyways, this episode, before we advance the plot, I'm going to be taking on the Cave of Ordeals one more time, because after completing it the first time, it gets a little bit more difficult. So that's going to be fun. I think in terms of what I have equipped, I think I'm well stocked, so I'm not too worried. But yeah, so going over some things that change here, there's no pose, so the ones that you've gathered here, if you went here the first time, they're not there anymore. But some rooms have more enemies in them. Some rooms will have different enemies. So, yeah. But anyway, since we've already seen the Cave of Ordeals one time, I'm just gonna do something that I've never done in this Let's Play, and that's speed things up, because, again, it's all stuff that we've already done. Although, it's gonna be with, like, a different twist, because there's gonna be some new, it's going to be more difficult, sure, but we've already seen like essentially everything here, so yeah. Anyways, I'm just going to be doing what I normally do, and that's just not doing that, but doing my usual strategy of switching over to the magic armor when I need it, just to conserve hearts early on. And in terms of my healing items, I have a fairy and rare chew jelly, which that's really it, because I'm not using the Great Fairy's Tears. So, I guess with that, let's go into the Cave of Ordeals. Okay, so my strategy for the Cave of Ordeals, at least going through the second time, is pretty much the same, where I just use the magic armor to conserve hearts whenever possible, and then use the jump strike whenever I enter a room just to get any extra damage into the enemies. But yeah, the Cave of Ordeals, it's the same thing really. I mean, there's more enemies in some of the rooms, and I'll be honest, in some of the earlier rooms, to me, it's not even noticeable. But later on, it definitely is noticeable, because there's some rooms where, like the very last room has more, like one more Dark Nut in it, and that's a noticeable change just because Dark Nuts are really difficult enemies. But here in the earlier floors, it's not really that noticeable, like how much has changed. Especially like, if you stay focused, then you should still have an easy time with the first part of the Cave of Ordeals, because it's not that difficult, to be honest. And here is the end of the first segment. Now, there's nothing new that happens here to talking with the Great Fairy. There's no like Meaver stamps to get here or anything. The Great Fairy really is just going to open up the door to the next place and provide a way out if you are done. Anyways, let's continue on. Now, one thing that I did learn to do a lot in this run of the Cave of Ordeals was to use the spin attack a lot. The Great Spin especially, it's so useful. But even like the regular spin attack, I abuse that a lot in this run through, just because it's easy to pull off if you're able to just rotate the control stick constantly. And it helps out a lot just because the range of the spin attack just covers like everywhere around you. And the Great Spin even more so, because sometimes it can actually like go through an enemy's defenses, like with the Dodongos I noticed. The Great Spin will actually still deal damage to them even when you're facing the front side of the Dodongos, when normally a regular spin attack wouldn't do that. And this is actually something that makes the Wii version a little bit harder, because when you're playing through the Wii version of this game, the only way to do a spin attack is to just like move, I think it's the nunchuck and the Wii remote at the same time or something like that, and you have to wait for like a second or two in order to do another spin attack, where if you're playing the GameCube version or the Wii U version, all you need to do is just rotate the control stick constantly and you're just unleashing spin attack after spin attack. But yeah, it's definitely a useful move to use here, and it's something that you should get the hang of before you go into the Cave of Ordeals, just to make things a little bit easier. Now, one thing I don't really do here, as far as I remember, is arrows. Arrows are really, really good in the Cave of Ordeals. Now, the only problem is your supply of arrows is limited to whatever you just come in with, because you can't take any arrows that you use again. Like, normally in the game, if you shoot arrows like at the ground or something and you like miss an enemy, or if an enemy shoots you with arrows and they miss, you can pick up their arrows, but in the Cave of Ordeals, that doesn't work. But arrows are really, really helpful just because they deal a ton of damage and they're very quick. They're quicker than the claw shot. While the claw shot is still a really good item to use, it's not as fast as the arrows. So you want to make sure that you make good use of your arrows if you want to deal with some enemies quickly, especially the boblins, because they just go down with one arrow, which is really nice. Bomb arrows too, those can also be really, really handy. But my general idea whenever I go through the Cave of Ordeals is to conserve as much of my resources as possible. And that's just how I play in general through a Zelda game. Just, I try not to use as many consumables as possible just because I could always need them later. It's this mindset that I have whenever I play like any game, really. Like with RPGs, with like healing items. For example, like with the Pokemon games with like ethers and elixirs, because you can't really buy them, I tend to save them because, oh, I could use them later. They're the items that are too good to use category for me. Like, and I end up never using them. Now, I don't know if this is true or not, but playing through Twilight Princess HD, I think for the Cave of Ordeals, they actually got rid of the rare chew that was in here, because in both the GameCube and the Wii versions, you could find a rare chew in one of the rooms to get rare chew jelly out of. And I don't think that is a thing here in the Wii U version. If so, then I just haven't noticed it in my time going through the Cave of Ordeals. But I'm pretty sure they took it out. I mean, I can see why, because it's essentially the best healing item in the game alongside the Fairy's Tears. But still, it's weird that that was one thing that was changed for the Cave of Ordeals. But yeah, we're making quite some good progress. We're actually already done with the fourth part of the Cave of Ordeals once we clear out these Dark Nuts. And Dark Nuts, just because you fight so many of them in the Cave of Ordeals, you will learn how to fight them really easily. And honestly, like, once you're done with the Cave of Ordeals, you're pretty much set for the rest of the game, because you should be able to take on anything the game throws at you, except for maybe the Cave of Shadows. But otherwise, the Cave of Ordeals just makes you prepare for anything else the game throws at you. In this room, whenever I see this room, I know like I'm at the very last leg of the Cave of Ordeals, because it's the start of the last 9 enemy rooms. Is it 9 enemy rooms? Should be 9. But this one is always, to me, it's one of the most time-consuming rooms out there. But, oh well. It's better to just take things slow and methodically in this room, because if you're trying to fight 9 of these things at the same time, it's going to be a pain. But yeah, just out of all the hearts that I've taken, I mean, I know I used some recovery hearts just by digging them up, but this, if I'm being completely honest, like I said before, this run through of the Cave of Ordeals was probably the best one I've ever had in my history of playing any of the Twilight Princess games. Like, even like with the GameCube and the Wii versions too, but I don't know. Maybe it's just because I have gotten better. Or maybe I'm just more patient. And yeah, see, arrows are really good for taking care of the boblins that like to shoot arrows at you. Because those are annoying. I generally try to take out the boblin snipers first, just because they can rack up the damage with the arrows when you're not paying attention. And yeah. This room here is also really annoying with all these ice enemies. I mean, any room with these giant ice monsters that can freeze you with their ice breath, not really a fan of. I think they're one of the more annoying enemies to deal with in the game, especially because they become smaller, annoying enemies. But with that, we're actually really, really close. This is the second to last enemy room. Now, personally, my tactic here would be to go fight the Dark Nut first, instead of the Erolphos, but oh well. And this is an example of a room that was changed, because I don't think the Dark Nut was there the first time. But this here, this is now the last room with enemies, and this one, there's 4 Dark Nuts. So definitely be careful in this room. And of course, the ideal way to take care of these enemies is one at a time. But sometimes you just get swarmed by a bajillion Dark Nuts. But again, one at a time is the best way to take care of them. And as you can see, this is where I took the most damage out of this run through the entire Cave of Ordeals. I could have used the magic armor to conserve my hearts, but this was really the last room, and I was confident that I could take care of all of them, which I did. And that is probably my best run I've ever had in the Cave of Ordeals. I didn't even use a healing item this time around, which was nice. But we've once again made it to the end. And here's an interesting thing that shows up at the end. Right over here. The postman is here. I think you're lost. It's got to be around here somewhere. Yeah, the postman... I mean, the only way to make it this far is to clear all of the enemies in this room, so... the postman is hiding some strength there. But anyways... since I didn't use any healing items... I'm just gonna empty up this bottle with the fairy in it. Just because fairies are pretty plentiful. And now, let's go claim another bottle of Fairy's Tears. Yeah, we've seen you before already. It is impressive that you've made it this far. Your trust in your skills is your greatest asset. Yeah, again, this was probably the best run I've ever had in the Cave of Ordeals. Like, I never went below 10 hearts, which is pretty nice. And now, another bottles of Fairy's Tears. So we have 3. See, many on the surface cry out for one with powers like yours. You must go back. Indeed. So, with the Cave of Ordeals done now, there's only one thing left for us to do. And as you can see, thanks to some editing magic, I am almost at full rupees, and I also have 4 bottles of Fairy's Tears. There's a bonus episode for that, where you get to see me go through the Cave of Ordeals a 3rd time. But anyways, let's just go make some final preparations before we go to Hyrule Castle. So final preparations really is just going to be buying things at the store, at Malomart. We have the money. The only reason I grinded up to this much money in the first place was just because, I don't know. I thought it would be neat to have max money by the end of the game. Oh, Malamar, it doesn't open until it's daytime. Fine, I'll just cut to whenever it's open then. Be that way, game. Okay, Malamar is now open, so it's just time to buy whatever. I also got another 200 rupees from Giovanni's cat Gangle. So really, I'm loaded with money. Just gonna stock up until I'm full on everything. Okay, so that should be good for monies. For arrows. Then bomb. Oh, I'm all set on bombs. What about water bombs? Okay, I definitely need some bombings though. And then... Nope, okay. I'm good. Still like that portrait of Mallow there. Or it might be a painting. You never know. But now that I'm fully stocked up and prepared for what's to come, it's time. It's time for us to head on over to Hyrule Castle to stop Ganondorf. Next time on The Legend of Zelda, we take on the final dungeon of the game, Hyrule Castle, which is right through these doors. See y'all next time for some more of Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess HD. Later.